So I watched Artemis Fowl on Disney Plus. Welcome to the club, guys. We hate it here. But in all seriousness, the unfortunate thing that's come out from this, other than another book fandom and just fandom in general getting terrible adaptions, the fear for the Percy Jackson live action adaptation on Disney Plus is becoming more prominent. And while I can understand that fear, I am here today to explain why Disney Plus is the correct platform for Percy Jackson. Now, okay, big statement there to make, and admittedly we won't truly know until it actually happens and it actually goes live. But the evidence that I have to support that Disney Plus and Disney in general could be, and most likely will be, the correct place for a Percy Jackson adaptation to be done is based on the fact that, firstly, in comparison to Artemis Fowl, the Percy Jackson series will be a TV series and not a film, where television, in terms of Disney itself, actually has a lot more room to grow, and in general the reservations that people have, so to say, is that Disney is Disney. And considering a lot of the content within the Percy Jackson series and future books and all these sort of things, the fear that Disney will Disneyfy them is very prominent. So with that and the few other things that will be discussed and that people have brought up, I will be hoping to kind of ease your fears about Disney. The three things that I will be talking about that have been mentioned are the concerns about diversity and representation, the source material and whether or not it will be deviated from, and 3, the Dignifying. So the first one I'm going to start with is diversity and representation. And as I mentioned before, Disney, television-wise, has actually been well known for its diversity and basically being a bit more forward-fronting than the film production series. The film productions, they're films. And admittedly with films, it's because film releases and film as a product is a lot more difficult to kind of get out into the world, so to speak, based on specific content. It's not right, it's not okay, but is an unfortunate reality. Television, however, there is more opportunity to kind of go with the flow and do things that most people, well, not most, some people who are ignorant in certain things may not agree with, because more people will be able to flock to it because television has a little bit more room to give. But in terms of Disney itself, Disney throughout its history on television has actually done things like this. Look at That's So Raven, for example. There was an entire episode dedicated to racism and how to confront it and deal with racism. And in more recent times, Andi, Mack, a TV show on Disney Channel, was the first Disney Channel show to introduce a main gay character in the form of Cyrus, who comes out in the show, whose sexuality is explored, not explicitly, admittedly, but a relationship is formed, coming out to occur, and it's not the only thing about him. And I think that is what was important about his coming out. It didn't define him. He just happened to be gay. And then of course we have general representation in terms of, on Disney Plus, for example, Dear Future President, a TV show that is explicitly about a Latin American family and a young girl whose name I currently have forgotten. 1 second. Okay, so I got two things wrong there. So it's Diary of a Future President, and the main character is called Elena. But it is a Latin American family, and it follows the young preteen girl, and we know that she's going to become President of the United States of America. And her story in this show is basically showing who she is as a young person and what led to her decision to become president, and just kind of understanding her as a character. And the show itself, as well as having a Latin American family as the main family of the show, and the fact that a Latin American woman has become President of the United States, the show itself explores a lot of topics, including homosexuality, racism in some form, and also womanhood. The very first episode has discussions of periods. And I was shocked myself, because I was like, is this really Disney? But it just shows that the medium of TV can allow for things to test the water, so to speak. And if people do not reject it, they can carry on down that road. And even if people do, on TV, it doesn't truly matter. They can carry on, because there will be some people who do appreciate it. And again, on Disney Plus, subscription service. So they're getting your money either way for things that you're staying on there for. Bonus! You're tricking the bigots! To move on to the source material, however. Now, Disney is known in terms of its adaptations to kind of not fully stick to the story, and Artemis Fowl is unfortunately another example of that. But with Rick Riordan involved, of course, it is less likely to occur. But I think the issue that people are kind of considering in relation to this is just the fact that adaptations are inherently difficult, and Disney doesn't have the best track record. But again, for a TV series, being able to get an adaptation correctly, I think is more likely to occur in a television format, because there is, in a sense, more wiggle room to actually get the information in, whereas a film, it's a little bit more difficult, and Artemis Fowl unfortunately is an example of that. I also don't know if the author of the Artemis Fowl series was involved with the film itself. I should probably look that up. Okay, so I can't find out if he was involved, but I would assume possibly not. But in the case of Rick Riordan, of course, he will be involved with at least the basic writing side of things. Whether or not he's actually writing the screenplay for the episodes, that is another question, but he will be involved in some form. So in that case, we don't have too much to worry about in that area. The biggest thing that I will move on to now, because source material wasn't the biggest concern. The biggest concern that most people have is relating to Dignifying, and I do get that, and I can understand the concern that comes with this, because Percy Jackson, while not an inherently dark series, it does focus on dark topics. And the concern is that this is going to not be shown in the series. And like I said, I do get that, but considering what we have seen from Disney in the past, while it hasn't always been completely overt, such as Chronicles of Narnia, we have a battle with death, with murder, we don't see any blood. And just in general, topics that are brought up within television series, such as, like I mentioned, racism in That's So Raven, homosexuality in Andi, Mack, and just generally various other things that Disney has broached. While it's never been inherently focused on violent storylines, and Percy Jackson itself isn't inherently violent, it's not The Hunger Games, but I think this idea of Dignifying, while justified in the concern, from what we have seen and what Disney has broached in its stories, I wouldn't be too concerned that it's going to brush over the abusive stepfather or brush over the death of characters, because we have seen death in series. We have seen discussions of ableism discussed in Tru Confessions, which I only saw earlier this year for the first time. So Disney, while not known for broaching darker and not usually spoken about topics such as sexism, racism, ableism and death, Disney aren't afraid to shy away from that. They haven't done it as much in recent years, but I believe that with the platform of Disney Plus itself, they are more likely to feel confident discussing these topics, because firstly, people have already paid and they're going to stay for the other content that's on there, so they're going to get your money anyway, because capitalism. But in general, I think using the TV platform, as I've mentioned a lot through this video, you are more likely to be able to get away with things that in film, especially a Disney film, it is unlikely to be able to get away with on a global scale. But on an online TV streaming service, there are things that you can do that you're more likely to be able to get away with in general. And I think that's just the thing to kind of keep in mind to do with Percy Jackson on Disney+. It is an online streaming service. There is going to not really be a loss of revenue that will stop them from doing things that normally they may not have done in film before, because film and TV are two very different platforms that you can get away with different things on each thing. And as a whole, I think while the anxiousness is justified, at current, be excited. I think that's the thing here. You can be nervous, you can be anxious, but the excitement is still there. We are still getting a Rick Riordan involvement TV show on a platform that has been improving immensely in terms of its representation, its diversity, its lack of the Dignifying format that we have seen and believed throughout the last decade or two that Disney gives. They aren't going to shy away, and I don't think they will. So I think for now we can take a breath and relax. Except for the Artemis Fowl fans, because you guys, I'm so sorry. But what do you guys think? Do you think Disney will be the correct platform for Percy Jackson, or do you think there was someone else that could have done a better job? Of course, we don't have a say on that because Disney had the rights anyway, but it's always fun to talk about. So let me know in the comment section down below. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video though, I truly do appreciate it. Of course, in the description box, check out the links to all of my social media, my merchandise store and my Patreon, which if you can, be sure to support me making my content over there. But if you can't, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already. And again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.